Hey guys, it's time for Breakthrough with Coach Lew. Coming to you live from Accelerate Life University, XLR8Life.com. Coach Lew will help you break through anything that's stopping you. Are you ready to get the motivation, the energy, the life, and all the success you really want and deserve? With no further ado, here's Coach Lew.
All right, here we go. Good morning. Welcome back to Breakthrough with Lew, guys. What do you fear more than death itself? Well, what do I fear on a Monday morning? Technical difficulties. That's why it is 8:09 a.m. instead of 8 a.m. Well, a couple of my broadcast channels would not start. This wouldn't fire up. No reason. I'm looking through it. I'm going, there's check boxes everywhere of everything that's done. And the biggest Monday morning fear is, oh crap, we're not broadcasting. And there we were. No, but seriously, let me ask you again. What do you fear? What do you fear more than death itself? Answer that question in the chats for me this morning, guys. Tell me what it is that you fear even more than death itself. Is it public speaking? Is it something like that? Is it losing a loved one? Is it losing a certain amount of money? Is it losing a relationship? Is it not making the right spiritual choices? So, welcome back, my friends, to Breakthrough with Lew. This is a very powerful question of what do you fear even more than death? Okay, we all have that one fear, or maybe even a couple of fears that are actually scarier than death itself. And you might be going, no, I don't think so. And then there's other people that say, well, I have a great spiritual relationship with my Creator. I don't fear death at all. So there's not much that I fear a lot of things more than death. But really, when you boil it down, we all have that fear of death, or the way you're going to go. But then there's always that one or two things that really make your guts squirm, right? What is that for you? Share it in the chats. Let's talk about this morning, because this stuff is important. You know, I've heard it put that a coward dies 1,000 deaths where a hero dies one. And I think this had its basis back in Vietnam, was, during the wartime, where, the soldiers would get out there, and it was, hell or any wartime. And my heart goes out to any of our service guys and gals that are out there fighting for our country. And, and you're in the middle of this firefight, and the coward, and I hate to use that word, but that's the way it was, the story was taught to me, was the one who kept going, oh my God, I could die. Today could be the day. The next bullet could be the next bullet. And they picture, being shot in the arm and bleeding out for days, or, exploding in a mine or something like that. And they've envisioned their own death, 1,000 times. Do you think that in their mind and in their bodies, the response to that, they may have experienced death 1,000 times? Where the hero goes out there and goes, I may live through this, or I may die, but I know one thing, I'm alive right now, and I'm going to keep it that way, and I'm going to, do my mission out here. And if it happens, it happens. But in the meantime, I'm going to live. And that was the story. But, that's pretty crazy about how it really feels. Have you ever had a situation you're scared of? Maybe not quite life and death, but a situation that you're really scared of, that, when you finally take action and do something and go, oh, well, that wasn't really so bad. We've all had that, right? You feel me on that? You hear me here? Can you give me an example? Tell me about this. When was a time you feared something and you went in and handled it, and it was like, oh, that really shouldn't have been so scared, right? So, yeah. So what, in the story of the coward as opposed to the hero, okay, what could be the biggest takeaway from that? that it's in here and in here that you think about this stuff. You die 1,000 deaths in your head. You only die one physical death. But how many spiritual deaths do people have? And you're like, ooh, we're getting woo-woo now. No, but seriously, how many spiritual deaths? How many times have you wanted to do something, had a great idea, this is it, you're going to do it, and you let it just die. You just let it fall out. A book you want to write, and it just kind of went by the wayside. These are the deaths that you should be fearing more than anything. Okay? But let me ask you a question. What if you harnessed fear? You're like, what are you talking about? Okay? Well, you can't eliminate it for sure, but you certainly can use it to serve as a warning when something needs attention. If you're laying in bed at night and you hear crash and glass breaking, you don't roll over and go, I'm not afraid of anything. That's a good chance somebody's breaking in your house or there's some other thing that needs attention. That's an okay to wake up and go, oh, crud, what's going on here? Crap, what do I need to do? Call to action. That's a call to action. Fear can be a call to action. Okay? The other thing fear can do is let it drive you away from pain. The fear of, being broke when you're older might make you more financially responsible. The fear of your child getting hurt may, give you the opportunity to not go take a nap and leave your doors open and let your 2-year-old run around in the street. Okay? That's the fear of, oh my God, my child could get hurt would keep you from being an idiot, right? Okay, so let that be the thing that drives you from pain, or the situation where you go, okay, we have, X amount of days to file the taxes. Let's get them done. Let's get on it today instead of getting on it an hour before they're supposed to be in the mail, and there's no way you can do it. And that would be painful because it's going to cost you penalties. You see where I'm going with this? Fear has its place in your life, okay? It can be the thing also that forces you to grow. And you might go, well, what are you talking about? Okay, I get it's a warning, crash, something went boom in the night. You got to check it out, call the police, whatever you need to do. It's a call to action. Let it be the thing that pushes you away from pain. Yeah, okay, I don't want to be broke, so I got to work. Rather than, living under a bridge somewhere, it could drive you to go to work. But what is this thing that forces you to grow? What do you mean? Well, when you do something that's not necessarily what you feel like doing at the moment, like, you go see that big, tall roller coaster, and you go, I'm not going, but then you go on something like that, and you turn around and go, wow, I did it. Wow, that feels great. It forced you to grow, because now you look at that roller coaster and go, I conquered that. Not, that's my arch nemesis. Okay? Think about this kind of stuff. Or let me bring it right home this morning, literally right home this morning. I go in the cold plunge almost every day of my life. Okay? That, a lot of people fear that. You say to somebody, I'm gonna sit in 50-degree water. I'm gonna get in up to my neck in 50-degree water every single morning without fussing and groaning and sticking my toe in and jumping back out and going, oh, I can't do this. Or you get in for 3 seconds and you get out, no, 3, 4, 5, 10 minutes, whatever the day calls for. And it forces you to grow. There was a point where it was like, all right, we're starting. Not to you guys, to my software. Yes, it's been that kind of morning. It's okay. That's why we have backups. Oh, Lordy. But seriously, getting into the meat and potatoes of it, getting in that cold plunge every day forces me to grow. Because I could easily go, well, I did it yesterday. I don't need to do it today. And I'll skip a couple days. I'll get back to it, or I'll do it once a week. Or, well, you know what? There's no growth there, because you start to, when you don't do something that could force you to grow, you shrink. There is no staying static. There is no neutral. You guys have heard me say this before, right? Okay. So that forced growth comes with fear. When you overcome the fear, you get growth. So it might not be a bad thing, right? All right, cool. So After our talk this morning, how do you feel about that gut level fear you thought of at the beginning? Well, I do have an analogy to give you, or a question to ask you, actually. One of the biggest fears that we hear in the coaching spectrum is becoming a paraplegic. A lot of people say that is one of their fears worse than death a lot of times because of the restrictions on their lives. The other thing is, we contrast that with person wins the lotto. Okay. And do they have fear? Yeah, because they never handled that much money before, and they could lose it, or people are going to try to take stuff from them or whatever. But who do you think's happier in 5 years? Somebody today who wins the lotto, or that other person to contrast them, the paraplegic? You're going, this is a trick question, because obviously, somebody wouldn't be happy about being a paraplegic. And, the person that won the lotto doesn't have to work ever again. This is a stupid question, Lou. Stupid question. You may think that, or you might already know the answer. You might go, you know what, I'm really curious about that. Who do you think it is? I'd love to see some votes on that one. You want to know the truth? Neither one. Neither one are happier in 5 years than they are today. And you might be going, no way, no way, no way, no way. That person has become a quadriplegic, has had so much taken away from them, this, that, and the other. Person that won the lotto got easy street. Well, maybe. Okay, I'm not saying winning the lotto wouldn't be a bad thing, but you got to work on up here if that's the case. And if you become paraplegic, you got to work on up here. That's the case. But you know why neither one is happier than the other? Why they've come right back to today in a 5-year period? Think about this. The person that's won the lotto probably has not, taken that money and grown and forced some growth and, did great things and, maybe they gave some away, whatever. But now it's a way of life. Okay, you got the money. Maybe they held on to it. Maybe they didn't. I don't know. But okay, so that's their new life. That's if they were not super happy going in, they're not going to be any happier in 5 years. What about the paraplegic? You might go, well, there's no way in hell that they're going to be happy. Well, they move their finger. They almost get out of the chair, and that's cause for celebration. And you're like, what? Yeah, because if somebody tells you you're never going to move again, or you're never going to write, or you're never going to be able to do this, and you gain something, even the smallest bit back, they're ecstatic and happy. The person that's won the lotto and just kind of cruising through life and isn't growing anymore in that, they're no happier than they were before they won. Now, the initial lotto winner is celebratory, and the initial shock of becoming a quadriplegic is very depressing and sad for somebody. And, my heart goes out in that direction. My God, I hear you. I would not want that that's one of my greatest fears. So, but my point to it is you go out 5 years and they're right back to the same level of happiness, unless they have taken a very active role in the process of that. But isn't that a kind of a crazy prime example of fear? The fear that could be your greatest fear. 5 years from now, you wiggle your finger and you're celebrating. It puts it in perspective, guys. So how do you feel about that gut level fear that we had when I started the show and you said, this is my fear greater than death? Okay. I bet now it's not as crippling and possibly even feels fear could equal a challenge and growth. See, some people, why would you go to a haunted house? Okay. They're scary. You're going to get adrenaline going. You're going to jump. People are going to scare you in the process of it. But you come out the other side and go, oh, that was cool. What an experience. Or the roller coaster, or breaking through, even being fearful about asking for a raise at work, and you finally go in and ask, and it happens. Okay? But you think your boss is going to go, nope, you're fired or something. You have this big story built around how it could go wrong. And then when you get to the other side of it, you go, dang, I grew. See, it's like a circle. When you step outside of that circle to handle challenges, that circle gets bigger. You eat those challenges, a couple more pop up, you go outside of that circle, and now you're this big in your circle, your sphere of influence, your sphere of control. And when you started, you were there because if you're afraid of all those little pop ups outside of the circle, you're never going to grow. But once you grow, now you look back and go, some of the crap that I thought was a problem earlier in life, man, that wouldn't even roll off, that would roll off my back like a drop of water on a duck. Okay? Because ducks' feathers don't get wet. Well, okay. Anyway, yeah, probably way too much information that I know about a duck right there, right? But my whole point to it is would you rather walk around in fear and dying 1,000 deaths all the time? Or would you rather go, you know what? I'm going to go for it. Once in a while, I'm going to trip and fall, stub my toe, this, that, and the other. But I'm going to go for life. I'm going to vote for living. What do you think? I vote for living. And at the maximum, okay? By the way, fun fact for you before we close up today. You ready for fun fact? Fun Fact Friday? It's not Friday, it's Monday. Fun Fact Friday would be a cool show. All right, I can hear it now. Jen and everybody are going, yeah, stop with creating new shows and focus on the ones you got. That's a little bit of the ADD. But fun fact here. Do you know that fear and excitement, okay, are almost exactly the same physiological, and that's physical response in the body? Yes, it's freaking true. Fear and excitement are the same chemical release in your body. So why does one suck so bad and the other one is so much fun? Well, the difference is whether you attach a positive or a negative connotation to it. Connotation, that's a big word. Yeah, it means meaning. What does it mean to you? Well, going on the roller coaster, my stomach's going to get nervous, and it's going to be fun. But you're nervous, you're scared, it's growth. Okay? If you view it that way, but then if you view it that somebody died once on a roller coaster and I'm going to die today, that's got a negative connotation to it, right? So excitement and fear, same physical response in the body. Crazy, huh? Think about that next time you start to feel those feelings. Are you fearing something or are you excited because it's time to grow and break through something? Man, I hope you guys really have enjoyed the show today. My deepest belief is that something here is going to resonate with you and you're going to go, something to think about. And you're going to take a step and go, let's rock and roll this week. Let's take this week head on. Let's do something we normally wouldn't do because usually we're too afraid. Okay? I'm not saying go, run across I-4 in rush hour. That would probably be a really dumb idea. Okay? Although some people have done it. I'll tell you a story someday about karma. Oh, shoot. I'll tell you right now. I got 2 minutes left on the show. Back when I lived in Buffalo, New York, I was out by the Galleria Mall. I was cruising down Interstate 90, tooling along, and all of a sudden, traffic just stops. And I'm like, oh my God, there must be an accident. But, it's like, what just happened? And there were police everywhere. And my mind is just going, I think I was 16, 17 years old. And I'm like, what is happening here? How did the police get here so fast? There's obviously something happened as an accident, but why are there so many police here already? The accident doesn't happen and the police just appear. What's going on? I was just like confused. And I rolled up and one of the officers was standing there, rolled down my window. You know me, I'm going to talk to everybody. I said, hey, what the hell's going on here? He goes, you really want to know? So you see that car there? You see the legs hanging out from under it? I'm like, oh, crap, what happened? Did the guy jump off the bridge? I said, no. He said, we were chasing him. He ripped something off at the mall, and he chose to jump the fence instead of, taking his misdemeanor charge, jumped the fence and ran across I-90 to get away from the police. And boom, dead. Dead over a $5 or $10 or even over a $100 item. Who cares? Dead. Wow. You want to talk about karmic return, okay? And I'm not a woo-woo karma guy, look what I'm wearing around my neck. I believe in God, and, and everybody's allowed to call God however they want. I'm not going to preach to you, but it was like, what a wake-up call for a teenager. Not my own teenager that, was struggling to get by. And, you wonder sometimes, should you cut corners to get by at that point in life? But I was like, my Lord, use this as common sense. Okay. This boy obviously feared getting arrested more than he did fear death. What a crazy scenario. But, it was just one of those where you go, and now especially I look and go, what was the mindset there? What were you going to get? A fine for shoplifting? Overnight stay in jail? Probably juvenile. It was probably a kid. And I'm thinking, you gave up your life for that? That's insane. So what fear do you have that's stopping you today? I know it was a drastic story and a sad story. I'm sorry to bring that to you, but you're still here. You've still got an opportunity to take on today and take on this week. What are you going to do with it? Put it in the chats, guys. Connect with me. Love y'all. Live with faith, energy, passion, always. And I mean always live. Whose dream? Your dream. Ciao for now. I will see you on the next roundabout. Have an absolutely amazing day.
Ready to take it to the next level? Tune in to XLR8Life.com for our live shows, encore presentations, life-changing courses, and live coaching with Coach Lew himself. As Coach Lew always says, live with faith, energy, love, passion, and always live your dream.